Good afternoon and welcome to the Embedded Executive Podcast. My name is Rich Nass. I am with Embedded Computing Design. This week's guest is Rod Cope, the CTO, Chief Technical Officer at Perforce Software. How you doing, Rod?
I'm good. How are you, Rich?
I'm doing just great. Thank you very much. So, you're in a unique position to answer some of these questions that I keep asking people about the use of AI in code generation. There seems to be a pretty much of a consensus that we should not be using AI, artificial intelligence, to write our code. However, there are some people, and I'll see where you fall on this, who think it's fine and should be used for the review of that code. Do you agree with both things or either things or neither thing?
I actually agree with both. I think not only is it okay to use, I think we have to use it in order to compete. To keep up with technology, to keep up with the competition, we got to use it to go much faster than we ever have before. So I think we have to use AI to generate the code and then different AI to review the code. If we have the same AI generate and review it. It's kind of like the fox watching over the chickens, right? So I like to use multiple models when I can to make sure they double check each other.
Okay, I find that pretty interesting because most of the people I spoke to say it's not okay to use AI to generate the code originally because at least right now or over the last few months, the code that has been generated has been pretty bad. Are you seeing that it's different?
I I think it's improved dramatically just in the last few months and even weeks. It seems like we're at the tipping point where the models have become good enough, and now they're starting to become as good as, if not better than developers in a lot of cases. So of course your use case, makes a big difference. But
Hmm.
in a lot of environments, yeah, that with the most recent batch of models, now we have Opus 4.7 and we have OpenAI and ChatGPT 5.5 that just came out, and they're big steps forward. So I think it's a good time to reevaluate if people have been in the, hey, it's not good enough, or it's writing bad code or insecure code or impossible to read code or whatever. I would give it another shot.
That's really interesting. At some point, does the code have to be reviewed by a human before it's released?
I think today, yes, but I also see that changing pretty rapidly. Um, Part of the reason is that now you've got multiple models from competing vendors that are pretty much on par with each other that are very good. So I can have one model write code, I can have it review its own code, uh, I can have it write adversarial tests to try to attack its own code. And then when I get comfortable with it, I can hand it to another model and say, hey, there's hidden vulnerabilities in this code. Find it. It kind of tease the other model, or even this is kind of funny. If you tell the second model that its competitor model wrote code, it will actually be more aggressive and find more bugs, which I find pretty funny. Now, if you
Hmm.
tell it wrote the code, it'd be like, no, this looks good. Oh, a competitor wrote it. Oh yeah, this is horrible. Let me tell you all the things wrong with it.
That's really interesting. Many years ago, I mean, I guess I'll date myself, in the people who were developing hardware, there were lots more hardware engineers on the team than there were software engineers. And then over time, that seemed to change, that even at a hardware vendor, there were far more software engineers than hardware engineers. Will AI shift that back, that we don't need as many software engineers and there'll be more hardware people on the team than software?
That's a really good question. I think maybe a scary answer, but I think there'll be AI everywhere. So I think there'll be AI designing chips and communication devices and networking equipment and everything in addition to software. It'll be, I kind of think of it like a power tool, right? You could still use a hammer to pound in all the nails, but if you had a pneumatic nail gun, you can go a lot faster no matter what the job is. I think the AI just brings us a whole new set of tools to that tool bag, and it's, you got to know how to use them. You need to practice. You need to train with them. You need to know what they're good at and bad at. But they're just more tools. And so if you're an experienced uh, worker of any kind of knowledge work, and you know how to use a bunch of tools, now you have more good stuff to reach for. And a lot of times you're going to find yourself reaching more and more for the advanced AI over time as they work out the kinks and reduce the hallucinations and that kind of thing. But that's happening week after week, month after month. So it's a good time to find another tool that fits in your bag.
But an elephant just popped up in this room here. If I'm a software engineer working on your team, should I be concerned about my job?
I think anybody doing knowledge work has to be a bit concerned, right? If you don't adapt. I think if you are willing to change, and that's hard. Change is hard. I don't want to make that sound easy in any way. It's easier to learn something new from scratch than it is to change something you already know how to do well. And I think that's going to be a struggle for a lot of people, is to say, okay, AI doesn't replace me, but it means I have to do things differently. So instead of, I'll pick on a software developer role, instead of writing the code line by line, and that's my identity. I've been doing this for decades. Like, okay, this is me. Now I have to suddenly step away from the keyboard and be more concerned about supplying constraints and requirements and specs and oh, I didn't mean that, or I know what I like when I see it. Now I see it. Okay, here's what's good, here's what's bad. I become a reviewer. I become an editor, an approver, a director, and not the guy with the hands on the keyboard writing the code. So still very valuable. Human judgment is even more critical than it's ever been, because without that, if you just say yes to anything that AI comes up with, you're going to get a mountain of garbage very quickly. So that judgment is still absolutely necessary, but it does change what people do day to day and how they think about themselves and their role. So people who are willing to make that change and to skill up, or hopefully their employer is helping them do that, they're going to be fine for quite a while. People who don't and say no, I'm going to dig in my heels and say AI is bad, or it's not good enough for this job, or it writes bad code, whatever. You've got a short window where that's going to be true, and then you're going to be challenged to find the similar work that the AI can do easily.
Does it produce better products or similar products faster?
I think a little bit of both. I think again, go back to that nail gun analogy. You can you can put in 1,000 times more nails in a day, but if you put them all in the wrong place, it doesn't help very much. So if you know what you're doing and you know where to put the nails, now you can go much faster. In theory, you could also say, well, I can build a better house because maybe I put more nails where they need to go, and I have a better quality house as a result, versus if I had to hammer them in, I might skip a few here and there.
Yep.
I do think that's also true with AI. You can get better tests, potentially better security. There's lots of things you can nail down better now when you can just say, yeah, go do that. And it just costs me some money and time. And the AI does it, versus, oh man, I got to slog through this thing for 3 hours just to do the right thing here and get a 1% better result.
Are you surprised by the speed with which AI has entered the engineering lab?
Yes. It's kind of funny because I'm a guy who's always ahead of the curve and predicting things too early. I've done that most of my career. And in 2016, I did a future talk where I kind of predicted, I'll pat myself on the back, as best results I've ever had. I really predicted everything that was going to happen last year and this year with AI. But it came up fast. All of a sudden, like it seems like 2 years ago, and like, oh, these are wild predictions. They're never going to come true. Now it's like, oh, maybe I undershot. It seems like we hit the exponential of the curve, and it just skyrocketed in the last 2 years and even the last few months. And it's very hard to predict 10 years out. I'm not even trying much anymore. It's so hard to foresee that far ahead with where we are. But yeah, it kind of snuck up on, I think, on everybody of just how fast it got here. Even though we kind of all knew it was coming eventually, it's like you wake up one morning, it's like, oh, it's here.
Yep. Do you think that Perforce is embracing it as well as competitors, better than competitors, not as well as competitors?
I think we're ahead of the curve in some areas, like on our testing side, our testing products. We've really embraced advanced AI and natural language and autonomous systems, and we're really ahead of the curve there. And we have opportunities in other areas where we're not as far. I guess I'd say we haven't gone down that transformative road as much. It's more like we have AI features and incremental improvements. But in a couple key areas, synthetic data generation, infrastructure automation, and testing, we've really embraced the, hey, there's a completely new way to do this stuff, given where AI can go. We don't have to just speed up a process we already have. We can think about taking steps out or making entirely new processes, viable that streamline everything.
Normally, at this point in the interview, I ask what you think is the world will be like in 2 years, but we don't even know what it's going to be like next month. That's probably not even a fair question.
It's a tough one. If I had to look forward 2 years, I would say companies that are kind of saying, well, show me the ROI. I spent a bunch of money on AI. I'm not really seeing those results, or I have people tell me there's too many hallucinations and issues. I think they will probably continue to say those things, but they're on a clock. And at some point, their competition who has embraced it and said, you know what, this changes the game. It changes the work we do, but also how we're organized as a company, how we think about products and market fit, how we test, you name it, across the board. Those competitors 2 years from now will be moving 10 times faster. And when they bring something to market that's very advanced and futuristic, those first companies that have been trying to pretend this isn't happening are going to be in real trouble. And I think we're going to see absolutely that. We're going to see both. And the bigger enterprises and companies, they've been around a long time, have a lot of customers, a lot of products. They'll maybe feel safer than they should if they go down that route. So what I'm trying to say is, don't be an ostrich when it comes to this. Make the investments, do the experiments, because your competition is. You don't want to be left behind.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you very much, Rod. This is really fascinating, as much or more so than anything that I've covered in my time.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. I can say the same. May we live in interesting times. Has never been truer.
Yeah, that's for sure. That was Rod Cope. He is the CTO of Perforce Software, and I'm Rich Nass with Embedded Computing Design.